Yep, looks like you're live.
Okay, make sure it's on. That's on mute. Bear with me one second. Okay, looks like somebody else is trying to come in. No, full screen. Bear with me just one second. I'm just trying to get it. Okay, make sure everything's okay. All right, here we go. All right, so fix control and then we'll begin. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon everyone who's watching or listening. This is Kenny Bomer Live on Consider This TV, where truth is made clear from falsehood. My name is Kenny Bomer. I'm the author of the book Consider Islam, Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda, and the forthcoming book, Everything is a Test, Truth has been made clear from falsehood. And today we're going to be discussing Islamophobia in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak. And I've got a Christian brother by the name of A.K. Manning on. He's been on before. And we were engaging one another just briefly on social media, on Facebook, in a group. Actually, one of my posts where I forgot exactly what I posted on that post. Matter of fact, let me just go to it briefly. That way we can go ahead and put everything in its proper context. But as I do, just want to once again mention that A.K. Manning is someone that I've been engaging for a little over 3 years at this point, and we actually had the opportunity to meet in person not long ago. He is someone that I do have love in my heart for. I do respect him, but I do have moments where I'm highly aggravated with him. And so today was one of those days, alhamdulillah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept my efforts to speak the truth and the beauty of Islam, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help me to be patient in dealing with this issue that we've talked about over and over and over again in regards to Islamophobia, and I'll let him speak for himself in a moment. But he commented on a post that I made yesterday, which says, even with the coronavirus changing their lives, Islamophobic atheists are still spewing their disease-ridden words into the air. And I made this post after two atheists in particular, atheist Islamophobes, no question about it, were badgering me nonstop in a particular group. And so, of course, when I try to engage them and say, if you'd like to have a discussion, we can come on Kenny Bomer Live. We can actually have a live discussion instead of wasting all this valuable time going back and forth via text. I no longer have any interest in doing that whatsoever. If you want to know what I have to say, then you can purchase my book, Consider Islam, Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda. It is available on Amazon and on my website, kennybomer.com. Or you can go to my blog on my website. Or you can look at some of my videos, or you can challenge me to a debate, or you can just ask me to have a discussion with you. We can have a live discussion and save, wasting a bunch of valuable time answering the same questions over and over and over again. So that's the context of this discussion today. And I named this discussion Islamophobia in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak, because even in the midst of this disease that it's literally touched everyone in the world, Islamophobia is still there. And Islamophobia, in my mind, is an absolute disease. It's a disease of the heart and the mind. It's a blackened, and matter of fact, Allah addresses this, referring to the people who disbelieve as their hearts are being darkened and blackened. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that each and every time that we commit a sin, that a black dot is placed on our heart. And if we continue to commit those sins, then our heart becomes blackened to the point where we don't even feel conviction for the wrong that we do. And so is Islamophobia wrong? Absolutely. Is prejudice wrong? Absolutely. Xenophobia? Yes. Bigotry? Yes. Hatred? Yes. Is it all unprovoked most of the time? Absolutely. And so me making this post yesterday was basically just a means for me I was dealing with the frustration of those two people. And I just made the comment just because it's mind-boggling to me that with Allah drawing our attention to Him through the midst of a virus. These were atheists that I was dealing with. They were mocking Allah and saying that, just mocking, questioning whether or not it's a true test from Allah. And I do believe that the coronavirus is a test from Allah. I believe Islamophobia is a test from Allah. I believe that everything that we engage ourselves in on a day in, day out basis is a test from Allah. And so we have to make adjustments along the way and try to live in the obedience of Allah, try to do what's best in all those issues and those circumstances that we face. So without me going any further, I'm going to allow A.K. Manning to take as long as he'd like. As a matter of fact, if you want to time it, I've got the timer right here. You're welcome to take as much time as you'd like and try to tell me why it is that after all of these discussions that we've had about Islamophobia and the things that I've told you that I've experienced personally, the things that I've told you that I deal with on a day in, day out basis, being a Caucasian Muslim in the United States, in Texas, in the Deep South, and I still experience Islamophobia because I'm an author and because I do dawah and because I do what I do, alhamdulillah. But there's Muslim brothers and sisters throughout this world that face Islamophobia in far more detrimental ways than I ever will. And that's what I fight for. I fight for the truth and the beauty of Islam because I know what Islam does for me on a day in, day out basis. And I know how my Muslim brothers and sisters of different colors and complexions and different nationalities are attacked in various ways, not always just physically, but on social levels, various levels, and it winds up affecting them on a spiritual level sometimes, making them just lose all hope and faith, and they just walk away from Islam just simply because of the pressures that society puts on them. So that's what I fight for. That's why I'm offended by it, and that's why I do what I do, and I do it with passion. I mean what I'm saying, and I say what I mean. And alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept my efforts and may forgive me for any mistakes that I make along the way. So, A.K. Manning, I love you to death, but I do call you the most Muslim Christian that I know at times. And I also call you an Islamophobe at times. And
yeah, I've noticed.
Yeah, and the reason being because I find, Allah warns us in the Quran, alhamdulillah. It warns us about, I'm going to mention two verses in particular, then I'll let you speak. I just want to summarize this and put everything. Allah warns us in the Quran about taking Christians and Jews as close friends and allies, because He warns us that when they're amongst their people, that they will actually turn on you. And so that's why it recommended that we don't do so. And I've seen signs of you doing that, and I don't mean to attack you personally, but I'm just trying to tell you that when you're going hand in hand with other Christian or another atheist, or with an atheist rather, in antagonism and ridicule, I can't help but not be offended. Why? Because I have love for you, and I expect more out of you, and so it's so that's why at times I call you an Islamophobe, because I do see signs of it that you don't see. And I've told you this before. I've told you this on many different occasions, and I've also told you that you're the most Muslim Christian that I know, because there are other times when you seem to be so willing to absorb what's being stated, and I don't understand why it keeps going back and forth. That's where my aggravation lies, because I begin to put a certain degree of faith, or I don't want to say faith, but I start thinking, okay, A.K. Manning he's coming along. He's coming along. But then, out of the blue, some comments that are made, and I'm like, man, it's so disheartening to. But yeah, go ahead. And I just wanted to clarify why I was a bit agitated and why I wanted to have this discussion, and I want to make myself clear on all those issues. So go ahead, take as much time as you want.
I'll introduce myself. At risk of making a rather long introduction even longer, I'm curious, what do you mean by he's coming along?
Okay, well, what I mean by that is that when we're talking about various issues. We've talked about Islamophobia many, many times. I think you would agree with that. And when I say coming along, what I mean by that is that it seems that there are times when you're that you will admit and recognize that, okay, in regards to this topic, you will admit and recognize that Islamophobia exists in the world, but then to question me and try to get me to prove to you that Islamophobia exists, like just like you did yesterday, or was it earlier today? I made the post yesterday, but it's like, why are you in particular questioning me about this after all the discussions that we've had on the subject? I
get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to briefly introduce myself. Well, Kenny gave you my name. I'm a Christian, been a Christian for years. I've been interested in the subject of Islam for maybe 5 years or so, from an apologetic standpoint. I happen to believe that the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate. It's true from cover to cover, without contradiction, and I'm sure Kenny believes otherwise. He's stated openly that he believes otherwise. And so it's my love and concern for Muslims that makes me want to engage them. I think that's something Muslims and Christians have in common, right? We both believe in a creator. We both believe in a judgment day, in a form of heaven, a form of hell. And we both believe we're accountable to that creator. And so any decent Christian who loves his neighbor wants the best outcome for his Muslim neighbor. And likewise, any decent Muslim who loves his Christian neighbor should want the best. The best thing Kenny can do, in my opinion, is share what he believes is the truth and the beauty of Islam with me. And that's why I say I respect his da'wah so much. That said, I don't happen to believe it's true. And I've noticed sort of a reoccurring theme coming from Kenny. One of them, of course, is he's a very genuine, awesome person, very kind, thoughtful, puts others before himself. I might say he's the most Christian Muslim that I know. But another theme that I see reoccurring is he points at what he calls Islamophobia, where there seems to be no evidence. So that was kind of the genesis of this conversation. He mentioned the post, and so I brought up the comments from that post. The screen's too bright, you can't read it, but I'll read it to you. Somebody named Michael, I'll go ahead and omit his last name, said, like what? So Michael, whoever this is, was asking for an example of this Islamophobia. Kenny's response was, like A. He put the letter A in quotation marks. And he said, that word is enough coming from them. So it seemed to me, without knowing the background of the conversation, that he was suggesting that somebody simply saying one letter or the word A represented itself as Islamophobic. So Michael responded, I'm sorry, I'm not following. What specifically are they posting? If you want to tag me to some of them, I can engage them. So whomever Michael is, seemed like he wanted to engage with these Islamophobic people. But I went along with that. I said, Michael and Kenny, tag me too. I've never interacted with a real live Islamophobe. And I think that's what Kenny reacted negatively to. See, Kenny and I have agreed in the past that Islamophobia should be defined as an irrational fear of Islam, right? If you have a rational fear of anything, somebody's got a flamethrower pointed at me and I've got a fear of fire in that moment, that's rational. That's not like fire phobia or anything. But if it's irrational, if I'm walking by the swimming pool, there's no fire or barbecue around and I still have a fear of fire, that's irrational. It's kind of silly. And so it would have to be a silly fear, an irrational fear, for Islamophobia to be a real thing. You'd have to actually know that somebody had a fear. So you'd have to know their motive. In other words, if I make a sentence like Muhammad was not a true prophet, if I make a statement like that, that may be Islamophobic, or it may be a conclusion that I've reached based on some sort of research, or maybe some rumor I heard, but there's any number of motives. We don't know for sure that it's an Islamophobic statement without knowing my motive. And so in many cases, I've seen Kenny point at me and say that I'm Islamophobic in some way. So that proves to me that he can assign motive where there really isn't any. And so I'm curious if you can show me an example where it truly exists. Now, Kenny, I want to grant you one more thing. I think there is a general anti-religious sentiment in our continually growing secular society. I'm not surprised that atheists approach you in a way that you read as Islamophobic. Believe it or not, if a word like Christophobic existed, I'd say they might be that too, right? Because we have a society that's moving away from belief in the true and living God and towards a hostility of religion. So if they're religious, if they're hostile towards your religion, that might just be their general anti-religious sentiment and not necessarily a specific fear of Islam. So I guess right here in this public forum, I can ask you the same thing. Can you cite to me some examples where you can actually demonstrate that somebody's motive is fear and that they have some form of Islamophobia? I've made the statement before that I think Islamophilia, an irrational love for Islam, is more prevalent than Islamophobia. Now, you might see that as a mean, rude, horrible, hateful statement. So let me correct myself a little bit because I'm not hating at all. I think that there are people who know nothing of Islam, like politicians and news anchors, who paint it in a beautiful light without having researched it. And if they don't have a rationale for painting it in a beautiful light, then they've irrationally come to their conclusion. So I don't mean that if somebody loves Islam, they're a moron or anything like that. Kenny loves Islam. He's not a moron. I respect him greatly. But I think there are people with an irrational conclusion about Islam that's positive more often than there are people with an irrational negative conclusion. And with that, I guess I'll shut my mouth for a moment. Maybe you can show me one or two examples so I can see that I'm wrong.
Oh, I'll show you a great number of examples, I assure you. Alhamdulillah. And we're going to start at the very beginning. As a matter of fact, all I need is about 5 minutes, and we'll just go back and forth in 5 minutes increments. But let me read something to you out of my book. Alhamdulillah, I wrote a whole book on the topic of Islamophobia. Alhamdulillah. Consider Islam disproving the patriots of propaganda. And I've sent you a copy of the book for free, and you've yet to read it. And if you would read the book, then you would understand exactly where I'm coming from, and I wouldn't have to go through this song and dance with you over and over and over again. Not that I don't enjoy talking with you, but these questions would already be answered for you if you would simply take time to read the book that I gifted you. Alhamdulillah. In the book, I say on page 86, go ahead. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can see that. I there's so many books piled on my shelf that I've meant to read, and
okay.
you're kind enough and generous.
Well, how many of them were given to you by someone that you actually know?
That's what I was beginning to say. Since you were kind enough and generous enough to give me a copy of yours, I should put that first in the queue. I started, let it go, and I apologize.
Well, alhamdulillah. Well, that's fine. You can read the second edition. It'll be out sometime before summer, inshallah. I've got 2 more chapters that I'm working on, trying to add a couple of things that I want to add and correct a couple of issues. Nevertheless, on page 86 of the existing book, this is the first edition. I mentioned, matter of fact, we're gonna start at the top, and I want you to tell me if this is Islamophobic in your mind. Okay, so I mentioned in the book, I say more examples of slogans that were contributed to this unjustifiable stereotyping are "We in the civilized world," which implies that no other group of civilized people are civilized, which leads people to feel that they are better than others. Another slogan that fails to define the enemy, leading to broad generalizations, is the war on terror, which is an ambiguous phrase that opens the door to entire groups of people being unjustifiably associated with terrorism. And I say, this is the point that I wanted to get to. The final nail in the coffin of condemnation of Muslims was hammered into the minds of people during the 2016 presidential election, when soon-to-be President Donald J. Trump made the following comments during an interview with CNN news anchor Anderson Cooper, when Cooper asked, "Do you think Islam is at war with the West?" The soon-to-be President Trump stated, and I quote, "I think Islam hates us. There is something there. There's something tremendous there." Excuse me. It says, let me back up. It says, and I quote, "I think Islam hates us. There is something there. There's a tremendous hatred there. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us." End of quote. And so I go on to say, when questioned about this by Anderson Cooper, who asked, is there a war between the West and radical Islam, or is there a war between the West and Islam itself? Trump replied, it's radical, but it's very hard to define. It's very hard to separate because you don't know who is who. Trump went on to implement the Muslim ban only days after being elected president. Comments continue to add fuel to the fires of fear and hatred that are burning at the heart of society, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. Lines have been drawn in the sand, and so-called enemy has been spotlighted as Islam, which has been positioned as a worldwide enemy due to inflammatory and inaccurate comments. Okay, so it says the tactics are used to maintain control and have been repeated numerous times throughout history. Okay, so I want to fast forward to something that George, not fast forward, but actually backtrack to something that I mentioned in the book that George Bush had stated. He says,
well, can I? You brought up 4 things. Do you want me to respond to all 4 of them?
Well, yeah, and you're a lot of time. I still have 2 minutes.
I just don't have them memorized. If you do them one at a time, go ahead. Go back to George Bush. That'll be thing number 5, and I'll try and remember
them. That's great. Well, I told you I have numerous examples that I can provide for you, not just one. So you gotta break out your notepad or something, because I can do this all day.
For being a genius, and I'm not one. I can't memorize.
Okay, well, you don't have to be a genius, but I can do this all day. Tell you about Islamophobic examples all day long, and I've done this numerous times with you, so it's nothing new. So. Alhamdulillah. So on September 16, 2001, former President George W. Bush made the following comment. This is a new kind of evil, and we understand, and the American people are beginning to understand, this crusade, this war on terrorism is going to take a while. Okay, so these types of comments are blanket generalizations used to attack Islam in particular, Islam as a whole, not just terrorists, but Islam, the religion itself. That's why Trump says that it's hard to distinguish who is who. Okay, well, that's a blanket generalization that implies that Islam itself is the root cause of the evil. Okay, so that's Islamophobia, and that instills hatred and fear into the hearts of people. And they're in fear that the Muslims are hiding under the bed and in the closet, and Muslims are trying to come into their communities and to instill Sharia and implement Sharia, when the Muslims in the United States alone are less than 3% of the population. How can less than 3% of the population come and override the American government and implement Sharia? It's ridiculous. But there are people that legitimately fear that that's happening. That's an irrational fear or an aversion to something. That's the very definition of phobia, an irrational fear or aversion to something. And in regards to Islam, when people fear this way, that is Islamophobia. I didn't invent the term. Matter of fact, Peter Oborn makes the comment in an article written in the UK Writer, and I'll summarize with just this, the time just ended. It says in an article, this is in the book as well. If you'd have read this book that I gifted to you, you would already have this information. In an article written by UK writer Peter Oborn, published in the Daily Mail newspaper on July 4, 2008, he stated the following. Islamophobia, you act like I invented the term Islamophobia. Every time I use the word Islamophobia, hold on, I'm just going to summarize. Every time I use the word Islamophobia, you act like that I've invented it. I didn't invent it. He says in 2008, and I quote, Islamophobia, prejudice against Islam, is Britain's last remaining socially respectable form of bigotry, and we should be ashamed of ourselves for it. This dangerous demonizing of the country's 1.6 million Muslim inhabitants is happening all around us. That's Peter Oborn. You can look it up, find the quote in the daily newspaper, July 4, 2008. So obviously there's other people besides Kenny Bomer that see that Islamophobia is real and it exists and it's happening against my Muslim brothers and sisters. I happen to be Caucasian. I take this kufi off my head, put a cowboy hat on, which I will never do. I don't wear cowboy hats. If I put a baseball cap on, you don't know that I don't have a cap on at all. You don't know I'm a Muslim unless I open my mouth and I start telling you about the truth and the beauty of Islam. So with that being said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept my efforts in this first 5 minutes, actually probably about 6.5 minutes at this point. Go ahead. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, am I on mute? Let me check. No, I'm not on mute. So I didn't bring a notepad. I'm in a truck. I'd be interested in seeing you recap the first of those 6 examples again so I can respond to it.
Would you like me to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll start with Trump. Okay, so Donald Trump says
Trump was number 5. There were
he was
3
number
before.
5.
Yeah, there were way before that. You mentioned Islamic statements like war on terror. I think that was
Okay,
number
yeah,
2.
sure. Okay, well,
What was the first one before?
when I was reading out of the book. Okay, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Okay, absolutely. Okay, so I said, and I just started picking up reading out a particular paragraph, so I'll go through exactly where I started. It says, most examples of slogans that have contributed to this unjustifiable stereotyping are "we in the civilized world," which implies that no other group of people are civilized, which leads people. Okay.
Oh, sorry. So, would you say that is the use of that phrase as an example of Islamophobia?
It's Islamophobia combined with xenophobia, absolutely. Because the point that I'm making in the book, I'm getting to the point of Islamophobia, but part of Islamophobia is xenophobia, being afraid of people of other nations, other people of other races and other nations. So xenophobia works hand in hand with Islamophobia, absolutely, no question about it.
So you take, because you began to explain, you take "we in the civilized world" as an implication that there are no other civilized people, right? You said that specifically, I think. Is that right? Did my internet freeze?
I lost you somehow. I don't. If you're there, I don't hear you.
Okay, I got you back. And you're froze again.
Are you still there?
I lost I think it's your internet.
Yeah, my internet's acting crazy the last few days.
Mine in the big rig is working better than yours. Okay. So
I'm at home. It's AT&T. I don't know what the problem is, but
I've always had a problem with AT&T.
And the thing is, it's the only service that I can get in this where I live. I can't get any other service. It's ridiculous.
Well, we in the civilized world have working internet.
Okay, all right. So did you hear what I said in regards to that? So a statement like that, you didn't hear what I said? So I was saying that Islamophobia is combined with xenophobia to attack people of other nationalities, other races, and it's a form of hatred. So it's Islamophobia combined with xenophobia. So obviously in the book, I'm making the argument about Islamophobia, but xenophobia is part of it. So
so I guess I would respond to that by saying that it's possible when used in a certain way.
Okay, thank you.
That could be used for Islamophobic purposes, right?
So you can see to that. Alhamdulillah, thank you.
Let me go ahead and finish responding.
Okay, sure.
So if I were to say, man, all the Muslims in the world are barbarians, but we in the civilized world behave differently, well, then, of course, that would be painting them all as one way, right? But I might say, in Texas, the internet sucks, but we in the civilized world have working internet, right? And so that phrase in and of itself, to me, doesn't stand as an example of Islamophobia. It would have to be shown in a particular context where it was.
It doesn't affect you. You want to know why? Because you happen to be one who thinks he's in the civilized world. Okay, so you see that's the problem. That's the clear distinction. That's the problem right there. Thank you for admitting that, for proving that, because you don't see a problem with it. But if you put yourself in the shoes of someone who's in another area of the world that's not a part of the Western world, that lives in a third world country or those things like that, referring to those people as uncivilized simply because of their economic conditions is disgusting. I find it disgusting and abhorring. I detest someone who would use that type of rhetoric because it's to dehumanize those people as though those people are second class, or those people aren't as good as people in the West. Okay, so thank you for admitting that.
If they're saying that, right? But
the whole point is they are saying that.
My internet's better.
Yeah. Well, the whole point is they are saying that.
Well, okay.
That's the problem.
Just show the example of the phrase "we in the civilized world." Similarly, you use the phrase "war on terror," right?
Okay,
terror is not an Islamic concept. Terror is a concept.
Okay. Well, yeah. That phrase in and of itself, that's not a problem. but the rhetoric and the bantering behind it, the message behind it, that's where the problem occurs. Sure, Muslims engage in a war on terror. Okay, yeah. Muslims don't support terrorism. We stand against all forms of oppression, and we don't support terrorism. So we're all fighting a war on terror.
Agreed, 100%.
I'm fighting right now as we speak. I'm fighting a war against terror by engaging you in this conversation. You understand this?
Which one of us is the terrorist in that case?
Huh?
Which one of us is the terrorist in that
case? Let's put it like this: a terroristic mind state, a terroristic ideology, a terroristic, frame of mind, which states, that will cause one to believe that they are and somehow superior to another group of people. That's a social terrorism. Okay, so might not be a physical terrorism, but that's a social terrorism.
You know that I'm a Christian, and you've indicated that engaging with me on this subject is a war on terror. So is that inherently Christophobic?
No, what I mean by that is by me addressing the point that as a Muslim, I fight against oppression. I fight against terrorists. If I've seen some terrorists, some Muslims or otherwise, trying to oppress some people and trying to kill someone, I can assure you, the type of person that I am, I'll be right on the front line. No question about it. I will be on the front line in that fight. I'm on the front line in that fight right now, trying to break down what they're hijacking Islam. They're hijacking Islam, which allows the Islamophobes to use their acts against Islam. Okay, it's all terrorism. That's a social terrorism. When the reality is that Islam has an answer for literally every single issue that mankind will ever face, not only individually as individuals, but collectively as well. Alhamdulillah. So I'm fighting terrorism right now as I speak. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept my efforts.
Okay, but you applied that phrase to your engagement with me. So I'm wondering, in what way do I represent terrorism right now?
Okay, well, if you're supporting those who ban against Islam in regards to their rhetoric, okay, that's a war. That is a social warfare. Okay, that is propaganda is a social warfare. If you're repeating the words of propagandists, then you're siding with the propagandists, and you're at war against Islam. And what is Islam? What is Islam? Submission to the will of our Creator. That's it by its definition. So if people being at war against submitting to don't even use the word Islam. People are at war and have a problem with submission to the will of our Creator. You yourself admitted it earlier, saying that most people in the world are leaning that direction, whether you're Christian or Muslim or Jew. The vast majority of the people are fighting against religion, and they're just atheism is growing, and this is a war against the very act of submitting our will to the will of our Creator, trying to live the best lives that we can, regardless of what title you call yourself, Muslim, Christian, or Jew. It doesn't matter. If we're trying to strive in the cause of our Creator, obedience of our Creator, that's a good thing. And if we have someone trying to counter that with racist and prejudiced and bigoted rhetoric, then that's a problem. And if we have other religious people following suit, and when I have you, along with the atheists that happened just today, antagonizing me on a post about wanting me to go into detail, wanting me to go into detail about something that I posted yesterday about a conversation that was held between me and two other atheists. You want me to stop what I'm doing and go into great detail and explain to you what I mean when you've had numerous conversations with me over and over again? Go ahead and speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I didn't ask for detail. I asked for you to tag me. Remember?
Yeah, you tagged me, but it's the sarcasm. You want me once again to explain to you what Islamophobia is. I've explained to you what Islamophobia is over and over and over again. And if you keep denying the existence of Islamophobia, it's a slap in the face of every Muslim in the world that experiences it, including myself. I experience it online. If it's nothing more than online, I'm not one that's going to give in to a man, group of men. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to say I'm some big bad guy, but I don't tolerate any form of disrespect on a personal level day in, day out. And I don't appreciate disrespect in any regard, simply because I'm a Muslim. Let me give you an example of the Islamophobia that happened today. I'm trying to buy a car for my youngest son. He's 16 years old. It's time for his first car. Alhamdulillah, I'm blessed to buy him his first car. So contacting this individual about this car, obviously the person looked and seen that I'm a Muslim, because the next thing you know, they're talking about consider Islam and Jesus is the way, and everyone else is going to hell and all those things. Islamophobia in the midst of just simply trying to touch base with someone about a vehicle that they're trying to buy and a vehicle that I have interest in. They're trying to sell a vehicle that I have interest in buying. So I see signs of the Islamophobia on a day in, day out basis. So I find it offensive for someone to tell me, and here I'm white, once again, look at me, I'm white in Texas, okay? And I experience it in my life. And so it's a slap in the face of my Muslim brothers and sisters of dark skin, black, brown, Chinese, Japanese, all these other Muslims that experience it in far worse ways than I ever have, okay? Because I blend in with the Islamophobic crowd. Go ahead.
If there's anybody who's going to watch this YouTube video and maybe they feel inclined to comment, right? So far, his examples are me. I'm an Islamophobe, apparently, because he's fighting against Islamophobia by engaging in a conversation with me. So you go ahead and comment if you think you've seen some evidence of phobia or fear in me, and if that's a valid assessment. Second one.
Go ahead. We're going to correct that here in a second. We're going to address that here in a second.
Yeah, let's see if that's a valid assessment.
Okay, sure.
And another example he gives is, although he kind of pulled back on the war on terror statement, is the purchasing of the car.
Simply never got to it.
So apparently, somebody told him Jesus is the way, and there's no other way to heaven except by Jesus, and he sees that as Islamophobic. So simply for a Christian to repeat Christian doctrine from the Bible is Islamophobic. In fact, Kenny told us a moment ago that not submitting to Islam is Islamophobic. So just
hold on. That's where I've got to stop you. Those words that you just said never came out of my mouth. I never said not submitting to Islam is Islamophobia. Please don't say that I said something that I did not say.
What did you say that sounded a lot like that?
Okay, I didn't say anything close to that. Okay, I said, what is Islam? Hold on. I said, what is Islam? Submission to the will of our Creator. And I said specifically, it doesn't matter what title you give yourself if you're trying to live in submission to the will of our Creator. It doesn't matter what title you give yourself. You don't have to call yourself a Muslim. You don't have to say that you accept Islam. You're accepting Islam by action if you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew that's trying to live and truly trying to strive in the will of our Creator. That is Islam. That's submission to the will of our Creator by definition.
Where I think I heard that, and if I'm wrong, I will comment that
you are wrong. So you're conceding that you would apologize if you were wrong. Go ahead, 100%. Because you're wrong. I didn't say what you said.
Hold on a second. Somebody's knocking on the truck here.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. So as we wait, this is Kenny Bomer Live on Consider This TV, where truth is made clear from falsehood. I do bear witness there's no God other than Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his final servant and seal of all prophets. I encourage you to give to the Kenny Bomer Foundation. You can go to paypal.me/Kenny Bomer, paypal.me/Kenny Bomer, and give to the Dawah Fund, inshallah. It helps us to get water wells built in areas in the world where water is scarce. Also provide educational materials for children in those areas and build their schools and classrooms, and to help people with various needs. It also will help me on a personal level to get all the publishing work done for the books, for the editing, the proofreading, and all those expenses, the artwork for the cover, and all those things. So if you'd like to contribute, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that for a person to help a da'i, financially or otherwise, that person will receive the blessings that the dye receives without the blessings of the dye being diminished in the least. So that's a great blessing, a great opportunity for you to also contribute if your money goes towards, getting books printed or going for the artwork or getting the editing done, all those things. You still receive the blessings on the day of judgment for anyone that it guides in a positive way. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that for one person to be guided through you is better than the universe and all that it contains. And so obviously that's our objective and our obligation as Muslims to share Islam with other people. And if we can help one another do so, we should strive in order to do that, inshallah. Okay, so you're back.
Sorry I took so long. I'm glad you had a moment, but I'm sorry I took so long.
No, it's all right.
Or if you're looking at convincing me, the examples that you've given me aren't convincing. Can we look at the Donald Trump one and see
sure,
if that's
absolutely. And the thing is, A.K. Manning, the thing is, it's if you can't see clearly that this type of rhetoric is if you're trying to claim that it's not affecting people, and it's not causing some people to have an Islamophobic state of mind, actual true fear of Islam, and a fear that that Muslims are actually trying to come into their communities and disrupt their way of life. If you're trying to claim that that's not happening, then you are suffering from delusions. Okay, and I don't see how you can really
asserting so doesn't.
Hold on. I don't see how you can honestly. Even consider making such a claim. Okay, when the signs of Islamophobia are everywhere. Okay, so let's get to what Trump said.
Let's show me the Trump one.
Okay, sure. Okay,
While
so
you're looking at that, I'm going to state for the video, when Donald Trump was campaigning in 2016, I wasn't really in favor of Donald Trump. There were other good. I'm a Republican because I'm pro-life. There were other good Republican choices. I liked Cruz. I liked all of the other ones almost. In fact, Cruz is my next to last choice. Anyway,
okay.
Donald Trump made a statement about potentially banning Muslims from coming into the country, and that was the basis on which I rejected him. So if anything,
Why?
I was very
Can you tell me why?
Yes. It's because it didn't demonstrate an understanding of our Constitution. If a person's going to be president of the United States, and if the First Amendment to the Constitution has to do with freedom of religion, then to say, I don't want freedom of religion, demonstrably shows that he doesn't understand the Constitution. And I would say, how can you take an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution if you don't understand the Constitution?
Okay, so what you're saying, you had no intention of voting for him based on his talking about the potential for a Muslim ban, right? Because you seen that it was wrong.
If he was to say that a Muslim isn't free to practice here, or a Hindu, or if an atheist
my question was, so you were planning initially not to vote for him based on the Muslim ban itself. That's your sole reason for not wanting to vote for him, because you knew it was wrong, correct?
That reason by itself would have made me say I can't.
Because you knew that it was you knew that it was wrong. That people should have the freedom of their religion, and one group shouldn't be targeted because of their religion.
That is a principle of America, right?
Okay, that's a principle of America. So you agree and you concede to that. Well, guess what? That same man that you said that you wasn't going to vote for based on that campaign agenda in his campaign, well, he implemented it just days after he was elected. Matter of fact, I stood protesting against it at the Intercontinental Airport here in Houston, whenever it happened. And I seen the Muslim families that were affected and the tears in their eyes when they were coming in, and people were still. It's disgusting. Okay, so that very man that you said you wasn't going to vote for because of that you wound up, you actually did vote for, he did implement that very ban that you're talking about.
I haven't stated to vote one way or the other, but I will state it. I did end up voting for him because the alternative.
Okay, but nevertheless, but you voted for a man who implemented a Muslim ban.
Well, let me go ahead and clarify that a bit. Shortly after he made that initial position, he changed the position. There is a ban against travel from 17 specific countries.
Yeah, Muslim majority countries.
There is also free travel from many other Muslim countries.
Muslim majority countries, though, right?
Yeah, from many other Muslim majority countries. Many Muslims are free to travel into the United States from other countries.
No. It was the Muslim majority countries that were banned. Okay, so nevertheless, it doesn't matter all the bantering back and forth. He implemented a Muslim ban. Okay,
no.
that's Islamophobia. Okay, why would he? Hold on. Why did he implement the Muslim ban? Because he feared that the Muslims were bringing terroristic ideologies into the country, that they were coming and trying to attack from within.
So why didn't he?
That's why. And what is that? He was afraid of that, right? And he instilled that fear in the minds of people all over the nation. That fear is hold on. It's something that they've never seen themselves. Okay, I asked this question in the book, and I ask this quite often. I've asked you this, and you've heard me repeat it numerous times. Have you or anyone that you know personally, have you ever had any Muslim or group of Muslims come to you or anyone that you know and try to force you to accept Islam or to force you to accept Sharia? No. But do you admit that the people fear that may happen? That it's happening now, that some people think it's literally happening now, and they think that the potential for it to happen exists. That's a fear. That's an irrational fear of being afraid of something that you haven't laid your eyes on, you haven't experienced. That's a phobia. That is Islamophobia in particular. Surprise. Are you there? Are you still there? Your mic says that your mic is on mute.
Okay, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Did you hear everything that I said?
No, I tried to hold up my finger and indicate that I had to move the truck, but you didn't.
Okay, well, great. Well, the audience heard what I had to say.
Okay.
It's a shame that you missed that because it was. Alhamdulillah.
Of course,
Let's get back. Huh?
Threw down the facts, right?
Yeah. Well, it's very convenient that you missed it.
Down the.
It's very convenient that you missed it.
I didn't want to interrupt, and then you heard my butt drop. You saw my picture go. That's okay. So if you missed the signs that it was happening, I'm sorry. It need to your pictures go. Oh, you're back. Okay, so yeah, man is wrong. I disagree with the premise that what we have today is not stand because it's not. But that said, I think that would have been.
Okay, we lost him for some reason, so we'll let him come back. In the meantime, once again, I am the author of the book "Consider Islam Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda," and if you want to know my position on these things, I'm addressing Islamophobia in particular. And it looks like he's back. You can get the book on Amazon or on my website, kennybomer.com. Go ahead. I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. My signal looks like it was still strong, so I don't know what happened. Right now, I can hear your voice, but see your picture.
You can't see my picture. What about now?
It's black.
Huh? Can you see me? Okay, we're having some kind of connection problem. I don't know if it's. I've been having issues with my AT&T internet the last probably about a week. So we lost A.K. Manning, but I was saying that you can. In fact, he's back. Let's see. Okay, what about now?
It's back right now. The screen is black though.
The screen is black.
The screen is black.
Yeah, I don't see your video.
There, I see it.
I don't see your video either.
So I'm right here.
Okay.
On my screen, I'm in the bottom right corner. I don't know if that's on YouTube.
Well, you're breaking up. Am I breaking up whenever you hear me talking, or you're breaking up?
I'm sorry. My signal looks all the way strong.
But what I'm saying, am I breaking up? Can you hear me clearly, or am I breaking up?
Oh, I can hear you. You're not breaking up. I heard you guys 4 times. You're not breaking up.
Oh, okay. I'm not breaking up. Okay, so go ahead and you're breaking up on that end. It might be.
Yeah, man, your internet's weak.
Well, I'm getting a full signal. I don't know why it is a full signal.
Maybe it's me, but I'm showing full signal too. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm in a truck. You're in a house, so maybe it's me. So let me make
it's probably mine. But go ahead. What was you saying?
Let me make a concession here, okay?
Okay, great.
The day that I said no, because of that Muslim ban that he was trying to enact, that was Islamophobia. If somebody says, no Muslims, I want no Muslims.
That was Islamophobia. I just seen the thing that says A.K. Manning's net. Hold on. I seen the thing that said A.K. Manning's network connection is weak.
Oh, man.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it just popped up again.
Maybe it's me. Right,
yeah, and it just popped up again.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's me?
Yeah, it says A.K. Manning's network is weak.
Sorry.
Anyway, so let's clarify though before it's too late. You concede that Muslim ban was Islamophobic.
The Muslim ban, as originally proposed, was a clear sign of Islamophobia. Yes.
Okay. Well, it actually still transpired. So the Muslim ban still happened. So Islamophobia was enacted. I mean, you can't deny if it's like saying a peanut butter and jelly sandwich isn't a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because at one time it was going to be made on wheat bread, but they decided to make it on white bread. Well, it's still a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
You took out the jelly, then now it's a peanut butter sandwich.
Okay, well, but we're not talking about a peanut butter sandwich. We're talking about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that was originally going to be made on wheat bread, but instead of making it on wheat bread, they made it on white bread, and it's still a peanut butter and jelly sandwich even on the white bread. You concede that?
I think I'm going to call you white bread from now on.
Okay, you call me white bread. That's fine. I'm white like white bread. So that's...
All right, white bread. So yes, that would have been an Islamophobic thing.
Okay, it would have been or it was. Let's clarify. Let's get this set in stone. Let's get this set in stone. It wasn't. What was it? Would have been or was it?
What was initially proposed?
No, hold on. No, that's a cop out. That's a cop out. And we're going back to the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich is still a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, whether or not it was on wheat bread or on white bread. Correct? And a Muslim ban, a Muslim ban is still Islamophobic, whether it was done under this set of circumstances that you whatever you conjured up in your mind, or another set of circumstances. The man campaigned about the Muslim ban, and a Muslim ban was enacted. And many people voted for him based on that Muslim ban, and also based on the wall and all those things: xenophobia, Islamophobia, hatred, bigotry, prejudice, fears, all that. Okay, so that's what it was built upon. Okay, and so the leader of the free world, implementing these thoughts in the minds of people, inculcating this fear in the minds of people, browbeating it into society, using tomfoolery and shenanigans in order to enact his fear mongering. Okay, we see evidence of that. We still see it, even in the midst of the coronavirus. The world shut down, and we still see Islamophobia.
So let's do that. Let's say, okay, so I agree that was an Islamophobic proposal made in 2015, 16.
Look, I'm not going to let you get by with this. Listen, the Muslim ban happened. It was a reality. I protested against it at the Intercontinental Airport here in Houston. I already mentioned that. All right?
Okay.
I didn't stand out there for hours. Hold on. I didn't stand out there for hours because it didn't matter. I stood out there for hours because of the principle behind the thing. You're banning people because of their religious beliefs. You're banning people because they're Muslims. You're banning people inevitably because, by the definition of the word Muslim, there are people who submit to the will of the Creator. That's shaitan. That's Iblis. That's the devil. That's the devil working in society. They were causing people to be banned because they submit to the will of our Creator. So let's clarify.
Well, you and I agree to disagree on that then.
You're not. You're telling me. Okay, wait a minute. See, this is the problem. This is why I say the fickleness of some people is astounding. You can't be fickle in this life. You have to make clear decisions. The truth has been made clear from falsehood. That's why. What is the name of this program, the show? Consider this TV, where truth is made clear from falsehood based on the verses of the Quran, which says, "Let there be no compulsion in religion. Truth has been made clear from falsehood. Whoever embraces the truth has grabbed hold of a trustworthy handhold that will never break." So there's only one truth. We can't juggle it and try to, when it's convenient, throw it on the other side of the fence and throw it back and forth, volley it back and forth, as though you can play with truth. No, we're not going to do that. We're not. The Muslim ban was campaigned. He campaigned using the Muslim ban, and then as president, he enacted the Muslim ban.
I hear the words you're saying. I think they're factually incorrect, though. And I'll explain why.
They're factually incorrect?
Explain why.
Was there a Muslim ban? Is that factually incorrect?
Listen, I'll explain.
Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let's clarify. Was there a Muslim ban? Yes. Is that a fact? Yes. Do you concede to that?
Okay, now would you like to hear from?
Hold on. No. I'm not gonna let you dodge and red herring your way out of this. Was there a Muslim ban? Is that a fact?
Do I have to answer in one word, or do I get a couple paragraphs?
Was there a Muslim ban? This is simple. Yeah, this is literally a yes or no question. It's not a dichotomy. It's a yes or no question. Was there a Muslim ban enacted? Yes or no? Yes. Has history recorded a Muslim ban in the United States? Yes.
I will answer yes or no, but you must allow me to provide an explanation afterward, okay?
Okay, well, you go ahead. You dig your own ditch, because people are going to be listening. Go ahead and dig your own ditch. You're being disingenuous if you're trying to say that
dig my own ditch.
That history didn't happen.
Now I'm going to ask my turn.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the ban that was proposed was based on Islam. That was wrong. The ban that was enacted was based on specific countries, and yet other countries. Muslims could come in.
What kind of countries?
Hold on. So,
were they Islamic countries?
Hold on. You said I get to explain myself. Now
Were
I'm
they
going
Islamic
to.
countries?
So
I just want clarity.
hold on. I get to explain myself. So now I'm going to. So the ban that it was actually enacted did not use Islam as a litmus. Therefore, I will answer no, it was not a Muslim ban. There you go.
Okay, was Islamic countries banned? Were people who were called Muslims from Islamic countries banned?
Some are allowed, some are banned. But it's not on the basis of religion.
Okay. Some were allowed. That's fine. Were some people who were from Muslim countries, Islamic countries, they call themselves Muslims, were they banned?
Some people are banned who call themselves Muslims based on their
Right,
nation.
exactly.
Other people
Exactly.
are
This is
allowed.
silly. This is what I'm talking about. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad this is recorded. I'm glad this is recorded. This is what I'm dealing with you on a consistent basis. This is absurdity. Okay? So this is absurdity. There's no making excuses for this. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I call you an Islamophobe.
There's no criteria.
Because you're supporting it. You're making excuses for the wrongdoing. You are making excuses for the wrongdoing.
No, I'm not.
I don't like it. I don't like it. No, I don't like it. I'm a Muslim. I have to stand up against oppression. It doesn't matter if it's enacted against me or Christians or Jews or whoever it's enacted against. As a Muslim, I must stand up against it. I must speak against it.
All I'm giving you are facts. If you don't like them, I respect your freedom to not like
The facts. These are the facts. Do you agree? Let's see if we can agree on these facts. The people that were banned by Donald Trump in his campaign. Hold on. The people that were banned, they were banned from Muslim majority countries, Islamic countries. Do you agree with this? Do you agree with that? If you're saying something, I can't hear you because you're just trying to mock my AT&T over here, which A.K. Manning's bandwidth is low, or whatever it is, connection. Okay, he just got booted out. Alhamdulillah. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow the truth to be revealed in this conversation, and this is where my frustration grows because I'm dealing with these arguments and just really excuses. It's really pathetic excuses, to be honest. I find it disgusting. So here you. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let's come to common terms. Okay?
Yes.
Let's come to common terms.
All right.
Then I'll let you speak. I just want to clarify something. Okay.
The ban that was proposed, I consider Islamophobic. You consider it Islamophobic. So those are common terms. We can agree on that.
Okay, you agree that. Okay, great. We just spent 30 minutes going around and around about it. Now you're conceding. That's fine. I appreciate that.
I conceded that the one that was proposed initially was. You and I both agree about the initial proposal.
Then we still have a problem. Okay, so let's clarify this. Let's come to common terms about this. Okay. The people that were banned, were they from Muslim majority countries, Islamic countries? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Were they Muslims?
Probably. Some.
No.
If they were Christians, same country, right?
Okay, were they Muslims?
Were there Christians?
No, the Christians weren't banned.
There are no Christians in Muslim majority countries?
No, actually, there's quite a few. There's a great number of Christians in Muslim majority countries. But let me ask you this: did you hear any feedback or any backlash from Christians that were complaining that they were a part of that Muslim ban? No, you didn't. Neither did I. Neither did anyone in the world.
You recall what I wrote?
No, well, okay. Well, did you? That's what I asked you. You didn't give me an answer. Did you hear any Christians from?
Well, I said I don't recall. And
you don't recall?
That is exactly what I said.
Okay, you don't recall. Okay, great. So you and I agree, or neither you nor I, or anyone that you and I know. I hate to make blanket statements, but I don't know anyone that's ever. I've never heard anyone since 2016 make any argument for any Christians that were part of that band. So, I mean, yeah, there's Muslims in there's Christians in Muslim majority countries. Yes.
People were allowed from that country, that would include the Christians.
Do what?
And if people are not allowed from that country, that would include the Christians.
Okay. But do you know of any Christian backlash or any Christians that complained that they were part of the Muslim band? Do you know of any Christians? Have you ever heard of any Christian group or individual that complained? He got kicked off again for some reason. Listen, I challenge anyone out there to find any Christian, single person or group of Christians that was residing in one of those Muslim majority countries that was banned because they lived in one of those Islamic countries. Okay, you're not going to find them. It's been since 2016. This is 2024 years later, and I've never heard anything like that. It would have been used by Islamophobes if that would have been the case. Here he's back again. Okay, can you hear me now? Are you there? Okay. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. It's your connection, not mine.
It is mine. I'm sure it is. Let's look up Executive Order 13769. Hold on.
I haven't even hit him with the the heavy blows yet. I got plenty more for him. So as we're sitting here, once again, I encourage you to give to the Dawah Fund, the Kenny Bomer Foundation, the Dawah Fund. You can go to paypal.me/ that's a / Kenny Bomer at PayPal, and you can give to the Dawah Fund, inshallah, if you'd like to contribute to help build this platform and to help with the Dawah and to get more books printed and all those things, inshallah, God willing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for your efforts. And if you can't give, then please just say prayers on our behalf and ask that Allah blesses our efforts and our intention that gives us what's best. Inshallah. So it shows that he's in the room, but I don't know. Meanwhile, I'm going to go to YouTube. Assalamu alaikum, Abdullah Ali Garcia. Yeah, he's Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept my efforts. I care about this guy. He's I would actually hang out with him if I lived closer to him. He lives in California, but boy, it's frustrating sometimes. He's I don't know. He's Allah guides those whom He chooses, but he's a good-hearted guy, but his thinking is back and forth many times. So I see Danny Davis. What to say? Hopefully you're going to be on for a while. I have one more welfare check to do. Then I'd like to ask a few questions and possibly call in to talk. Well, you're more than welcome to do so. And let's see if A.K. Manning comes back or not. He's having signal issues. I thought it was mine. I have been having issues with AT&T lagging for some reason. I don't know what the problem is, but it's been lagging. And so we're talking about, once again, we're talking about Islamophobia in the midst of the coronavirus. Islamophobia is a disease. It's a disease of the heart and mind, and it's still running rampant. It's affected many, many people, millions, billions of people at this point, literally. And we see signs of it everywhere. And I'm not trying to undermine the coronavirus. Just so happened that this conversation came about based on a comment that I made on Facebook, or a post that I made about some atheists that were still spewing their Islamophobic rhetoric, even in the midst of the coronavirus. Like, come on, you know, Allah's drawing our attention, calling people to Him through various means, and these people just can't wrap their minds around that. You know, these difficulties that we face, hardships that we face, economically, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. You know, we lose people out of our lives and all those things, and you know, it's all a test, and it's all to draw our attention back to our Creator, the one who chose the day that we would be born, and He chooses the day that we're going to leave this world. And you know, this is serious, and the hatred and the bigotry and the prejudice still exist, despite, you know, a hidden enemy, a microscopic organism that we can't even see, has shut down the world. You know, and people are still have hatred and disdain and prejudice and bigotry in their heart. And I find it disgusting. I found it truly and literally disgusting. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts my efforts to keep striving, and helps me to be patient in doing so, and to maintain my composure, and to, you know, help me to have patience in my efforts. And I pray that all my blessings come for the day of judgment. I don't have to have any recognition in this world. Do it all for the day of judgment. That's the most important day of our lives, alhamdulillah. In this life, today is the most important day, because yesterday is gone and tomorrow may not come. So therefore, in our earthly life, in this dunya, in this world, today is the most important day of our lives. Yesterday is gone, tomorrow may not come. But inevitably, the most important day, by far, is the day of judgment, the day of recompense, the day of resurrection, the day when we will stand before our Creator and will answer for literally everything that we've ever engaged in, or everything that we've ever spoken in this life. So A.K. Manning is back.
Oh my goodness, we're back.
Well, alhamdulillah, you seem to have a better signal at this point. So did we come to a common agreement in regards to the facts, which are that the people that were banned...
There are two different bands. We agree on one and we disagree on the other.
No, there wasn't two different bands. There was a band that was campaigned and a band that happened. Okay, so that the same band that was campaigned.
We don't agree on the
for, hold on, the same band that was campaigned for was actually enacted only days after the inauguration. That's a fact.
Then we don't agree on the facts.
Okay. Well, if you don't agree with that, then you're in a world of your own. That's all I got to say about that. Because the facts are that a Muslim ban took place. Islamic countries were banned. Muslims were banned. They could not enter the country. That's a Muslim ban. That's an attack on Islam in itself. And if you want me to proceed with what Donald Trump states on the matter, I will read directly out of my book, Consider Islam Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda, which I have gifted to you once again, that you have failed to read, even though I gifted to you months ago. Okay? Yeah. If you gave me a book, I'd want to read that rascal just to simply see what my friend had to say. But
can I say something?
But you're you and I'm me. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so what? Yeah, was you going to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just giving you a hard time. Go ahead.
I regret. I know you're giving me a hard time. I regret that I feel this way. I don't want it to get to me when people give me a hard time, but it's getting to me a bit. So if you give somebody a gift and then you like later weaponize that and make them feel guilty about it,
No.
it's better not
Listen,
give it. Like
this,
I do kind of feel guilty. I
okay.
do kind of feel guilty already. And so like if you quit rubbing it in now, I've already admitted once in this conversation that I should have read it.
All right.
If you'll quit, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Seriously.
All right. Okay, I won't rub it in, but the point that I'm making overall, and I do apologize. I'm just teasing you for the most part. But the point that I'm making is that all these things that we're discussing, that we've been discussing for quite a while now, I address in this book. That's why I wrote this book. And not long after we started engaging one another online via Facebook, I told you that I'm planning to write a book. And you encouraged me to write that book.
I remember.
Yeah, and I wrote the book. And so the things that we're talking about are the things that are prevalent. It's the crux of what we talk about consistently. And so that's why, I'm just saying that, you have the opportunity to break down and analyze everything that I think and everything that I've stated, not everything, but everything that I put in this book, by reading it. But I don't want to give you a hard time about it. But nevertheless, shall I go to what Trump stated, that way we can analyze what he stated? Okay, so it says, I say in the book on page 85 in the first edition, it may change to a different page in the second edition, but nevertheless, in the chapter, matter of fact, the name of this chapter is chapter 7, Why Do They Hate Us? Because that's what non-Muslims have been conditioned to believe, that Muslims hate them. That's why I named this chapter this particular thing, and I actually go into more detail about that, but we won't get into that right now. So I say the final nail in the coffin of condemnation of Muslims was hammered into the minds of people during the 2016 presidential election, when soon-to-be President Donald J. Trump made the following comments during an interview with CNN news anchor Anderson Cooper, when Cooper asked, and I quote, "Do you think Islam is at war with the West?" Okay, so Anderson Cooper asked President Trump, soon to be President Trump, "Do you think Islam is at war with the West?" And I state, the soon to be President Trump said, or stated, and I quote, "I think Islam hates us. There is something there. There's a tremendous hatred there. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us." End of quote. Okay.
Okay.
That's a blanket generalization stating that not the terrorists, but Islam. Islam hates us. Islam is what? Submission to the will of our Creator. Go ahead.
What motive do you assign to that?
Huh?
What motive do you assign to that statement?
What do you mean, what motive? What is Trump's motive?
Yeah.
Okay, well, obviously, he's trying to get people to believe that Islam, well, just what it states, that Islam hates us. Islam hates the people of the West. Remember, he was asked about the West. Do you think Islam is at war with the West? Do you think Islam is at war with the West? So he's trying to obviously. Right, so obviously, it's quite clear. I think Islam hates us. There's a tremendous hatred there. There's something there. There's a tremendous hatred there. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us. So obviously, he's trying to convince the people that are listening. Huh?
Let me ask you a question. Was Donald Trump right to guess for somebody else that their motive was hatred?
No, but if you're trying to equate that, I know what you're trying to do here, but no, so the thing is, Donald Trump wasn't using a literal quote from anyone. I'm using his literal words to convey what he is obviously trying to get across. So there's no comparison here.
100%. That has no bearing on what I'm saying.
Great. Okay.
So
hopefully you're not trying to make that argument.
Donald Trump is wrong to say, I think Muslims hate us. Then he's obviously wrong to presume that is in the mind of another person. And therefore, if you say, I think Donald Trump is Islamophobic, are you not equally wrong to presume what is in his mind?
No, hold on. For one, you made a fallacious comment. For one, Donald Trump didn't say, I think Muslims hate us. Donald Trump says, I think Islam hates us. He says there's something there. There's a tremendous hatred there. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us. He's saying Islam hates us, not Muslims.
Do you think he means Muslims, or do you think
he's condemning the religion and saying that the religion, and so this is rhetoric that's used to make people believe that all Muslims will eventually hate the West, or hate the people, the so-called, the people that are, what's the word we used earlier that I mentioned?
Non-Muslim.
No, not non-Muslim, but the people who are civilized, the people in the civilized West, trying to instill fear in the minds of the people in the so-called civilized West, that Islam is teaching the Muslims to hate them, which is why I named the chapter 7 of my book, Why Do They Hate Us? Because of that question on the minds of the non-Muslims, thinking that Muslims hate them. Why do the Muslims hate us? And then the Muslims in turn also think, and they're questioning, why do these non-Muslims hate us when we're not doing anything to them? Why do they hate us? And the non-Muslims are saying, why do the Muslims hate us? Right? So both sides are asking this question back and forth. Okay, but one side is being led to believe, huh?
Both sides make that assumption.
No. One side is being led to believe by the leader of the free world, Donald J. Trump, that Islam hates people of the West, the so-called civilized world. Okay, and so therefore it's causing people to think that the Muslims hate the people of the West, and so the people of the West begin in turn to hate the people that they think hate them. So now they're hating the Muslims, but the Muslims are in responding by saying, why do they hate us? Why are they responding this way? When we're not trying to force Islam on them. We're not going into the communities trying to disrupt their way of life. But why do they think that?
You don't see things?
Huh?
So let's pause. Let me address the viewer. If somebody's watching this, let me address the person who might be watching. One group saying, why does this other group hate us? And they're probably saying so fallaciously. And then the other group in turn says, why do they hate us? And they're probably saying so fallaciously.
You're exactly the same thing. You're totally trying to sidestep the issue. Once again, the point being, this is why I quoted this man in the book saying, I think Islam hates us. Who's hearing this? Everyone in the so-called civilized world. Okay, they're being led to believe that Islam, the religion, is teaching the Muslims to hate them. Okay, so therefore you have a leader of the free world, a leader of the free world. Okay, the most powerful man in the world being the president of the United States.
Right, the most criticized man. Nobody takes him at his word.
Okay, right. So he's propagating and telling people that I think, as the leader of the free world, I think Islam hates us. Then he implements a Muslim ban. Okay, so the people that are voting for him, people that follow him, people that believe in him, people that believe in him begin to think the same way. They begin to think that the Muslims hate them. Huh?
How do you know that?
Listen, man. If you're going to be illogical, I remind you that people are listening. I'm using simple logic. This is a matter of simple deduction. This is a matter of simple deduction, and I can deduce from having simple common sense. Okay, common sense that tells me that when you have a leader trying to implement a certain state of mind amongst his followers, that those people are going to grab that and they're going to believe that. That's like a coach trying to get people to certain philosophy about how they train for their sport, right? Okay, they set the tone, they set the conditions, they set the precedents for how that group of people is going to believe or how they're going to behave. Okay, so if you're trying, listen, the president of the United States has most influence on the world than probably any other leader in the world. And you're trying to tell me making statements like this? Are you trying to imply that making statements like this don't lead people to fear Islam? That's foolish.
Okay, so let's Americans value his opinion. I don't. But let's say a certain percentage of Americans value his opinion.
You valued his opinion enough to vote for him. You valued his opinion enough to vote for him.
Listen.
Did you vote for him?
Let's say a certain number of.
Hold on. No, let's clarify. Let's clarify because you're trying to step outside of the realm of the Islamophobes here. But did you vote for him?
I've already answered that.
Okay, but you vote right. So let's clarify that I know and you know that you voted for him. So therefore, you do support what he stands for.
Not at all.
Vicarious liability. That means that you're somewhat responsible for him based on the fact that you voted for him, and therefore it's vicarious liability. Go ahead.
So I had a choice of voting. My number one voting issue is the slaughter of unborn children. It should be a voting issue for Muslims too. And I had a choice of a.
But it is. As a matter of fact, let me tell you how much of an issue it is. Hold on. I'm not going to let you get away with that. I'm not going to let you get away with that. See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not going to let you get away with that. So let's go ahead and address that issue about unborn children. The Quran is the only religious text. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. This is why truth is made clear from falsehood. Islam is the only religious text that directly tells people, do not kill your children because of a need of want. Do not kill your children. And it reminds people that on the day of judgment, those who killed the children will be reminded, and talking about the female infant in particular, because all the infanticide and all the female infants that have been killed simply for being female in this world, the Quran addresses that issue and tells them that on the day of judgment, the female infant baby that never did any wrong is going to ask for what crime they were murdered. Okay, so let's not use that trying to be slick and trying to throw that in there as though Muslims in Islam doesn't have an issue with abortion, when Islam absolutely has an issue with abortion. So don't ever try that again. Alhamdulillah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what angers me. Don't try to be slick. Don't try to throw something in there when you're talking out of absolute ignorance. That's you cannot do that. If you want to ask me what Islam, we've already had this discussion before. And if you want to ask me what Islam, hold on. If you want to ask me what Islam, don't imply and say Muslims shouldn't have a problem with that either. As though we don't, and that's what you were trying to get at. Don't do that. Don't do that. And this is Brother Ibn Anwar. So, nevertheless, go ahead and proceed. Go ahead, proceed. Do what? You're breaking up. You're breaking up on me right now.
Let me know.
You're breaking up on me right now.
You froze. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
It's a little choppy, but go ahead.
Can you?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Ibn Anwar. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Can you hear me?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yeah. I just woke up. Can't really stay that long because I go out.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I'm having this discussion with this guy. He's the one that I always talk about, A.K. Manning. He's back. We're having a discussion about Islamophobia in the midst of the coronavirus.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, A.K. Manning.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your screen is black.
Yeah, I'm here. It's your connection. My
screen-
connection is strong over here. It's your connection. So yeah.
So I got to point out the fast one you just tried to pull.
No. You tried to pull a fast one by trying to imply that Muslims or Islam doesn't have an issue with abortion, when we do indeed have an issue with an abortion. And I pointed out clearly that the Quran speaks directly about it in two different places. Alhamdulillah. This rascal's trying to be slick. Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
can you
I
hear
can.
me?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Just employ some self-control for a minute. We're going to clarify this thing. I said that should be a voting issue for them as well.
Right.
I know it's
right, but let's be honest.
We're going to try to
disingenuous. Are you trying to? You're trying to imply that it's not.
Kenny, we're going to employ self-control. Let me finish. I know.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to control and make sure that you don't try to sneak in a fast one and try to imply that Muslims don't have an issue with abortion when we do.
Kenny.
Yeah.
Oh, Kenny.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I know that Islam is against abortion. And I agree. And I said that should be a voting issue.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
The fact that you're suggesting that I said
then we're on the same page with that. But hey, look, I can't allow any trickery. I can't allow any trickery and tomfoolery to try to make Islam look bad. I can't allow that to happen. So if I'm wrong in my abrupt desire to defend, then that's why I'm mujahid.
Okay, don't interrupt me to lie.
Now go ahead. You're breaking up. But go ahead.
Hear me?
You're breaking up.
Don't interrupt me to lie. Let me finish. Kenny, can you hear me?
You're breaking up, but go ahead.
One.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm listening to you. There we go. So, don't try to imply that I said you're pro-abortion. I did the opposite.
No, he's trying to be slick is what he's trying to do. He's trying to throw that in there and didn't think that I was going to bite on it. And look, I'm trying to be slick. Okay. All right, go ahead. So you admit that Muslims have an issue with abortion being enacted. Yes. The Quran speaks directly against it. Okay, go ahead. Your signal is horrible. Whatever you're saying, it's not coming through. I can hear you trying to say something, but it's not coming through. Yeah, it's black because you have a bad signal. It's coming through just clear on my end. It's going live on YouTube. As a matter of fact, he's in and out again. So, Brother Ibn Anwar, you see why I'm being a little abrupt with him. He tried to throw in there right before you came on, trying to be slick is what he's trying to do, and trying to imply that Muslims don't have an issue with abortion. And he's saying that he voted for Trump because the Democratic Party is pro-abortion and the Republican Party is not. Initially, he said that he wasn't going to vote for Trump because of the Muslim ban. We're talking about the Muslim ban that he's trying to imply the campaign about the Muslim ban wasn't the same agenda that was part of the actual ban itself, which is it's absurd. Muslims were still banned, Islamic countries were banned, and he campaigned for the Muslim ban, and it happened only days after the inauguration. Okay, you there? Now I can see you. Are you there? I can see you just fine on the camera. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Are you there? Brother Ibn Anwar, can you hear me? Yeah, A.K. Manning, I'm looking at you. I can see your signal whenever you come up. Your picture comes up, and it's showing the bars are red, but then they changed. Yes, once again saying A.K. Manning's network is his bandwidth is low. His network bandwidth is low. So I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. I can see you there, but I don't know if you can hear or see me. Okay, are you there? A.K. Manning. A.K. Manning.
Kenny, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Are you there?
Hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's breaking up. It's saying your bandwidth is low. Yes, I can hear you, but your bandwidth is still low. It's breaking up. So if we can't get a better signal, maybe we should call it a day. We're right in the middle of a very good conversation, but if you're not getting a good signal, there's not much more we can do. Are you there? Ibn Anwar, can you hear me? Okay, well, we're gonna have to, I guess, call it a day. I'll give them a few more minutes to try to come back on. But once again, this is Kenny Bomer Live on Consider This TV, where truth is made clear from falsehood. And we've been discussing Islamophobia in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak. And it's mind-boggling how people are still using Islamophobic rhetoric into a worldwide pandemic, but it's still happening. And some people try to suggest that it's not, and Islamophobia isn't real. And by doing so, to me, they're just simply supporting it. If you deny something that is detrimental to society, that's like saying, you know, crack cocaine or alcohol or something is not detrimental to society when we see the effects of it everywhere. So, in the same way that this coronavirus has instilled fear and phobias in people, as well as it should. I mean, it's something we should be concerned with. I'm not particularly, as a Muslim, I'm not overwhelmed by it. I'm not in fear myself, but I can see where people would be concerned. Obviously, we need to be concerned about it. But the same, you know, in the same fashion, you know, when we hear something that is propagated over and over and over again in the media to cause people to think that, you know, something's coming against us. And in this regard, I'm talking about Islamophobia in particular. It's obviously we should be concerned about that. Or, you know, it's a so. Okay, so obviously I think it's pretty much a done deal at this point. I think the conversation is over. I do pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts my efforts to break down the misconceptions and address this issue with A.K. Manning. I'm sure we'll have him on another time. We do have some other people that are coming on. An atheist lady by the name of Mindy, I believe. Mindy, she should be joining us this Saturday, inshallah, if not sooner. And we will have a discussion with her. She's an atheist once again, and we'll have see what she has to say, what her antagonism about Islam is, what her problem is. And so we'll try to address those issues. So I thank you for listening, and encourage you to seek knowledge and appreciate the day for what it is. Today is the most important day of our lives, other than the day of judgment, which is the ultimate most important day. Once again, yesterday is gone, tomorrow may not come, so we only have today to try to strive and live in the obedience of our Creator. If we make mistakes along the way, go back to prayer, ask for forgiveness, seek refuge in our Creator from all the tests and trials that we endure, and do this consistently. And that in itself is Islam. That is submission to the will of our Creator, trying to fight off our own inclinations and our own weaknesses in order to live in the obedience of our Creator. Everything is a test. And I am Kenny Bomer, the author of the book Consider Islam Disproving the Patriots of Propaganda. This is Kenny Bomer Live on Consider This TV, where truth is made clear from falsehood. Be on the lookout for my next book, Everything is a Test, Truth is Made Clear from Falsehood, which should be out by probably August, inshallah, God willing. So be on the lookout for that. You can also look out for the second edition of Consider Islam, the white cover. Look for the white cover. Inshallah, it will be out hopefully by June. Inshallah, falling behind there. But anyways, I thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.